and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Defense Podcast. This week brought to you in partnership with our sponsors, Raytheon Missiles and Defense and CAE. I'm your host, Noemi Di Stefano, and today I'm joined by senior naval reporter Harry Lai. Hi, Harry.
Hey, Noemi.
Military training editor Trevor Nash. Hi to you too, Trevor.
Hello, Noemi.
And our land reporter Flavia Camargos Pereira. Good morning, Flavia. Welcome back.
Hello, hi all.
Hello. So, if you're a regular listener, you know that every week on the show, we give you the headlines from the defense sector and we discuss some of these top stories in detail. So, let's see what is on our agenda for today. We will explore a new area, at least for the podcast, but I believe in general for Shephard, we haven't written many stories on motorsports technology and see how NASCAR expertise can be applied to defense. Then in the second part of the show, we talk to Airbus about C295 MPA program. And in a conversation with one of our sponsors, CAE, we talk about the changes to the company's strategy 7 months after the biggest acquisition in the history of the firm, which was the purchase of L3Harris military training business. Now, of course, there is much more to that. So let's start from the naval domain, actually. Harry, you wrote a story this week about the delivery of the Freedom variant littoral combat ship to the US Navy. And beyond the delivery, I believe that there are several reasons why this story is particularly newsworthy and several angles to talk about, because these deliveries last year were suspended. So tell us more, first of all, on the issues that led to this and what sort of approach was taken to ensure deliveries happened and the issue was then somehow reversed and solved partially.
Yeah, so kind of at the start of this year, the US Navy stopped accepting deliveries of new Freedom variant LCS ships because of what they called a kind of a material defect with the ship's combining gear, which kind of takes the power generated from the ship and transmits it to the propulsion system. And so there was a class-wide defect causing issues on the LCS, and the US Navy essentially said, we'll stop accepting deliveries until it's fixed. And last week, they accepted delivery of the future Minneapolis-St. Paul Freedom variant LCS. So a fix has been found and tested. It's been applied on one ship, and they're kind of now trying to figure out how to roll it out to the rest of the fleet.
Okay, so there are other variants of the same class that are experiencing issues still, other variants apart of the two that we already mentioned?
So the littoral combat ship, there's two variants. There's the Freedom variant, which is the Lockheed Martin Fincantieri Marinette Marine ship. And then there's also a variant built by Austal USA or Allstal USA. Not sure how you pronounce that one. But the problem is with the Freedom variant. And so that's the one that had deliveries halted. But they are now going to continue with deliveries. And kind of, as I said, the USN is assessing how to fix ships that have already been delivered and built. Okay. How to get them up to this new standard, basically.
So how many ships are left to deliver and by when will they be delivered?
So there's a few in various different stages of order at the moment. So just in terms of what's coming in the immediate pipeline, the future USS Cleveland design modification work is done, and the work is currently being carried out on the future USS Cooperstown to receive the modification kind of ahead of its delivery. And then there's I think there's 11 total that have already been delivered to the US Navy, so they will at some point need to receive the repair as well.
Okay, thank you, Harry. I'll be back to you later. Trevor, I want to come to you because finally, after 2 years, the biggest show for the military training sector will take place next week in Orlando, Florida. And so, first of all, are you ready for the sunshine? Have you packed your luggage?
I haven't packed yet. I tend to leave everything to the last minute, but I've got a mental list, Naomi, and I'll be packing using that.
Okay, let me know if you need a hand. I'm great at packing, honestly. So now I know that obviously at the moment, I want to get a vibe from what to expect from you, on what to expect from the show. I know that at the moment we can only anticipate what is going to happen, what you're going to hear, and a lot of the news are still under embargo at the moment. Therefore, we can't name companies or capabilities. But give us a sense of what you expect the big teams at the show to be.
Well, I think it's going to be very exciting because we've been away from the show for 2 years. And although the organisers have done a brilliant job in holding virtual conferences, one cannot beat the face-to-face buzz of a conference. So I'm expecting it to be face-to-face buzz on steroids this year. I'm really looking forward to it. We are looking forward to this interaction, finding out what's going on. And I think two of the very interesting things that have happened over the last couple of weeks are there's been 2 takeovers in the industry. They're ongoing, so they're not finalised yet. But RUAG is selling its training business to Thales, and the same is happening from Bohemia. That was owned by a company called Riverside Venture Capital Company, and that's being snapped up by BAE Systems. So I think those are going to be 2 of the main talking points at the show, to see what's going to happen to the residual elements of Bohemia and RUAG and how the new owners are going to manage those assets.
Okay, and I know you were explaining to me offline that the show has got an exhibition part and has got also the whole conference. So I wanted to ask you if there is a particular speech, a keynote that you're looking forward to attend, in terms of maybe someone from the US military speaking and addressing, the status of some programs, of some tenders, of some developments.
I think one of the great things about ITSEC, they do a very good, what they call senior officers panel at the beginning of the conference process. And that's rather brilliant because you get senior officers from all 3 services talking about how they perceive training in the future. And that gives a good strategic overview of where they're likely to go in the future. From the Army's point of view at the moment, the big program is the STE, Synthetic Training Environment Program, which we're all keen to see how that's developing. Multi-billion-dollar program over a number of years, looking to completely transform the way the US Army do their training. And that's making great steps forward. From the Air Force's point of view, we've got our pilot training transformation, which again is making great steps forward. Recently, Vertex Solutions were awarded the contract for the program, and they just brought in a major subcontractor from Australia, Ryan Aerospace, to provide the 300 or so simulation systems for that. So that's moving forward at a great rate of knots.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. Next week, we will, of course, be on the line with you from the show. So I'm looking forward to know what happens. And I will be back to you as well later. Before we move on to discussing some European defense matters, I wanted to cast our attention to the Asia-Pacific news for a moment and give you 2 of the top stories from that region this week. One is about a big elephant in the room for the naval defense this year, the AUKUS Pact, which, as we all know, is an agreement between Australia, the US and the UK that was signed earlier in September. This week, the Australian Department of Defence said that the 3 partners have now signed an exchange of naval nuclear propulsion information agreement in line with their plans to build the nuclear-powered submarines. And this agreement will allow for an exchange of sensitive and classified nuclear information among the 3 countries. And also in the Asia-Pacific, Taiwan has commissioned its first unit of upgraded F-16 fighters modernized under the Peace Phoenix Rising program. What's particularly important about this is that is the variant of the aircraft, actually. Taiwan is the first air force to modernize the F-16 A and B fleets to the V variant. All of this has, of course, the purpose of increasing the country's the country's defense from peer adversaries such as China. And in fact, it looks like one of the capabilities of the modernized F-16V is the ability to detect Chinese G-20 stealth fighters better. Now, let's move on. Flavia, I'm looking forward to this, I must say, because this week, as anticipated, you wrote a story which is really interesting. I mean, you always do write interesting stories, but what's peculiar about this week is that you delve into something a bit different, and it's motorsports. So, of course, that is still in the defense procurement context, military context. So, Hendrick Motorsport, a current NASCAR Cup champion, you write, is using their engineering and technical background in this field and is entering competitions to produce defense solutions. So, what project are they involved in? What is the thinking behind this, and how is this combination of these two domains happening?
Yeah, actually, I have to agree. I think it's a really interesting story. Let's say topics like this one don't come across my desk daily.
Totally.
So this is the reason. It's something I had to speak about in our podcast. So Hendrick Motorsport, just to highlight, the company won the 2021 season of the NASCAR competition this month on 7th of November, but they started developing and providing defense products in 2012. So since then, the company has been applying its background to produce its background in competitions to produce military solutions. And actually, it makes sense since the races require strong, tough systems, as well as the armed forces and the battlefield do. And this is the reason why the defense suppliers in general have to react fast in order to provide solutions to armed forces. And Hendrick Motorsports identified this similarity, and currently the company is involved in programs with the U.S. Army and the U.S. Marine Corps.
And is there a specific vehicle, a prototype that they are applying their background to at this point?
Yeah, there is a platform called STEED. It means Silent Tactical Energy Enhanced Dismount. It's an all-terrain, zero emissions and electric payload platform. It can carry more than 222 kilos. Its range depends on the payload, but it can reach up to 48 kilometers. STEED also has the ability to export power for expeditionary units. Its batteries can supply power on up to 72 hours of mission, and it can be recharged via solar energy or connected to any type of vehicle. And this platform is manually guided by a single operator and can carry a large range of payload. It includes heavy weapons, UJVs, UAVs, power supplies, food, water, ammunition, many different types of cargo. And since it's a versatile platform, it can be customized to many different mission sets as well. And if soldiers need to switch into different types of fighting, it would enable them to maintain the mobility. Also, in terms of mobility, STEED can be deployed on hills, forested areas, tunnels, over rocks, and in dense urban and subterranean scenarios. This platform is currently being tested by the U.S. Army and the U.S. Marines. In the Army, the solution has been tested in different formations, including airborne, striker brigade, medical sustainment, and artillery. The trials with the Army will continue over the next year. And now STEED is also being tested by the U.S. Marines under their Expeditionary Advanced Base Operations concept. And this platform was already used in the Marines Integrated Training Exercise, the ITX.
And just a follow-up question on this. We know the importance of soldiers' touch points for armies, and you said that the tests will continue for another year. But do you know what kind of feedback have they been getting so far?
Yes, since the tests will continue next year, it's not possible at this point to disclose details on feedback or on inputs from soldiers. But what we can say, it seems to have been receiving positive feedback, and it's a new solution in the market as well. There is nothing available, not that would be similar in the defense market at this point.
Okay, thank you. It was so interesting. Are you guys Harry and Trevor followers of the NASCAR Cup at all?
No, generally motor racing to me doesn't really turn me on very much.
At the risk of angering the US viewers, I'm fans of races with turns, so more of a Formula One person.
Okay, fair enough.
But actually, NASCAR races are really popular here in the States. Just to point this out, they are really popular and people love.
Yeah, so's baseball.
Oh, well, don't. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're quite close to the American football, because football for me it's something different, but I think they love NASCAR's competitions and American football at the same level.
Okay, guys, I would like to talk about everyone's sport preferences, but this is a military podcast, so just last thing on that, Flavia, before we move on another topic. I understand Hendrick Motorsport is also partnering with GM Defense to supply parts for infantry fighting vehicles. You wrote a story, you had a conversation with GM Defense at the USA. I just wanted to know, what are the terms of this partnership? What parts of the vehicles will Hendrick Motorsport be responsible for supplying?
In the case of the GM Defense, Hendrick is a subcontractor to GM Defense and supplies parts of the infantry squad vehicle that was procured by the US Army last year. And the company is also developing, this is another project, the company is also developing a new seat line with the project manager Apache. Over the course of the years, Hendrick has been doing tests in this area in order to enhance the security and safety of its NASCAR pilots. And the company discovered that a more comfortable seat increased the performance of these drivers. So with the PM Apache, it's using a similar approach by taking some of these same concepts and translating them over to this helicopter seat.
So there is also an application for the air domain, and they're exploring that as well as alongside the land one. That's great. Thanks, Flavia. Let's stay on the land domain for a minute longer. This time we'll also bring into the conversation again Harry and Trevor, because the European Defence Agency Council has recently kickstarted new projects under the Permanent Structured Cooperation, also known as PESCO framework. A framework which started 4 years ago in 2017 with 17 projects, and now has got a much wider number of activities which involve 25 European Union member states. Projects cover all the conventional domains, but also cyber and space to a certain extent. And I wanted to take a look at what's new in these projects. We won't be focusing on the air ones because our air editor is not here. But Flavia, there is a main battle tank simulation, Flavia and Trevor, a main battle tank simulation and testing center project.
Yeah, that's it. It aims to establish an MBT simulation center based on existing national infrastructure. This center will provide training in relevant simulation systems and test new tactics, new concepts, doctrines, and standardization. It will also define specifications on the development of new tanks and subcomponents and develop modeling and simulation capabilities. At this point, Greece, France, and Cyprus are involved in this project. And this center is in line with the EDA card report released in December last year pointed out. This document stressed that 11 EDA member states were interested in developing a new common main battle tank. And since this center is intended to define specifications on the development of new tanks and subcomponents, I think this center can be the first step toward this new common main battle tank. We don't know if it will happen or if it will be a priority or if it happens when.
And Trevor, I don't know how much more do we know about this, if you have done any more digging on this, but main battle tank simulators, subcomponents, do you have anything to add?
I think, as Flavia said, it's very much early days. They're sort of at this stage putting their ideas onto the table to see what they want to get out of this project. But we should remember that, training simulation at the end of the day is the use of digital technologies, and that can be brought forward to the actual manufacture of the vehicle and forward again to the design of the vehicle. So that digital backbone, if you will, goes all the way through the process from defining a specification to manufacture to training. And I think this project is really an overarching one, looking at all those areas.
Which countries did you say, Flavio, are involved?
The countries that are involved are Greece, France, and Cyprus.
And Trevor, is there a reason, do you think, why this program in particularly targets only these three countries and not others? Can you think of any reason?
I don't really know. I would guess that they've got an interest in sort of medium to long-term requirements, and that's why they're probably getting together at this stage.
Yeah, but I think other countries can join this program as well. I mean, this project, if they want.
At a later point.
It's just a starting point. So these three countries, I think, are the ones that were really interested, but it doesn't stop other countries to join this effort as well, other EDA countries.
So more can come forward. Okay, perfect. And there is another one also called EU Military Partnership, which, to be honest, is a bit of a general label, if you will, to give to a project which sits under the category of land and land formation systems. So, Flavia, how is this project linked to the ground forces?
Actually, it would be kind of a platform for countries to discuss. It aims to improve European capacity to commit alongside and sustain partners' military forces, but it will be kind of a platform for the EU member states to exchange strategies, share information, discuss best practices, but they will do this with a view to rebuilding partners' military institutions.
But does it apply only to the land domain, or is it even?
It's much more focused on land domain at this point. In terms of spreading troops over the continent, I mean, how to work better in terms of land domain. And this project, this specific one, involves France, Estonia, Italy, and Austria.
Okay. Thank you, Flavia. Let's move to PESCO new projects concerning the maritime domain. So there are two new projects, Harry. One is called Essential Elements of European Escort. So what is it about?
Yeah, 4E, I think they're calling it, or is it E4?
Oh yeah, 40.
4E. So not the TV channel, but that's a Spanish, Italian, Portuguese project at the moment to develop key systems for future European ships that will be built between 2035 and 2045. So this is kind of anything from combat systems to communications and information systems, navigation, system of systems integration, lots of different systems. Essentially, like some of the other projects that was discussed earlier, this, as it's very early doors, this is kind of anything and everything that's important that could go on a ship, and kind of developing some what seems like common systems for the future surface combatants of European navies.
Okay, and you said these systems are to be built in Europe between 2035 and 2045. One might wonder, well, I certainly wonder, why waiting 14 years, even though that's not a lot of time in defense, but why waiting 14 years to build those systems in Europe? What is happening meanwhile?
Obviously, there's lots of ongoing naval projects at the moment. I mean, Italy's got a project to develop a new destroyer that's going to come around 2028. There's the European Patrol Corvette program. France is building FDI frigates. So there's a lot of naval development going on at the moment. And if you look at 2035 to 2045, there will probably be another new generation of ships coming around then. So I imagine the idea is, if you start this early research work now and start concepting what these systems kind of 10 years out can be, 15 years out could be, you can then start to develop these ideas and make them a reality when it then comes time to build whatever these kind of next generation of ships is.
Okay, fair enough. There is another one beyond this, is called medium-sized semi-autonomous surface vehicle. Which countries are involved in this project?
Yes, so Msasv or Msasv.
My taste for acronyms is really not
I'm going to throw some. I'm going to throw some more at you at the moment. So Msasv is a project to develop a medium semi-autonomous vehicle. I think it's being led by Estonia with other partners including Latvia, France, and Romania. And to get onto some more acronyms, the idea is that it will be kind of modular and be able to carry ISR, ASW, ASUW, and kind of mine countermeasure payloads. So, like we're seeing with a lot of autonomous and uncrewed surface vehicle development at the moment, it seems like it's going to develop a bit of a baseline boat or ship that can then be used to do lots of different things.
Okay, and there are some of the countries that you mentioned that maybe we don't write about their naval forces that often, but in general, are there any current projects in any of these countries that could feed into this one, or vice versa? Does any of these countries at the moment have a capability gap in any of these areas which is addressed from this project?
Well, I think if you look at kind of in terms of, say, countries like Estonia, kind of these smaller European countries that don't quite have the same naval spending power as someone like France, obviously you can see the importance of, or the utility of, something like an autonomous surface vehicle to do different missions. And then if you look at in terms of the partners, obviously France is kind of the I suppose the naval powerhouse of the group. They've got the kind of Franco-British autonomous mine hunter program going on at the moment. There's a few different USV programs going on in France as well that we've written about in the past. So there's kind of some natural partnerships forming there, and you can see why, as pretty much most navies around the world want some form of autonomous surface vehicle. So you can see why there's interest in kind of this kind of PESCO project, and it'll be interesting to see if any other countries join in kind of as it develops.
Thank you, Harry, and thank you everyone for today. Before we wrap up, Trevor, do you have a quote for us?
Oh, Naomi, it's very much a training quote, because as you know, I love my training. And it's from our friend von Clausewitz. And he said many years ago, "It is of immense importance that the soldier should not have to encounter in war those things which, when seen for the first time, set him in astonishment and perplexity. If he has only met with them one single time before, even by that, he is half acquainted with them. And that's just von Clausewitz telling us all how important training is. And I'm looking forward to next week when I'm going to fill my boots with training and simulations.
Thank you, Trevor. That is brilliant. I love this quote. I think it's one of the best ones so far. And I'm looking forward to know what you will have for us next week. So thank you everyone again, and as always, a reminder for our listeners that if you want to share your ideas and opinions, ask questions, you can do so by commenting down below on whatever platform you are listening for, or you can fill a contact us form on our website and we will get back to you. Also on shepherdmedia.com/news, you can find more stories, previous episodes of the podcast, video content, and more. Time now to say goodbye for today. A short message from our sponsor, and then we will be back with Tim Martin in conversation with Airbus about the C295 MPA program. Protecting Earth, surveilling space, enabling the mission. That is what Raytheon Technologies' early warning radar delivers. Unmatched range of 5,000 kilometers to simultaneously detect and track ballistic missile threats, distinguish between actual attacks and objects that pose no threat, while also conducting space surveillance. Early warning radar from Raytheon Technologies, a proven, modernized solution, a critical element for effective missile defense. Learn more at rtx.com/EWR.
I'm Shephard Media's Air Editor, Tim Martin, and I'm delighted to be joined by Fernando Siria, Head of Marketing Airborne, ISR and Tactical Airlifters at Airbus Defence and Space, as we discuss the C295 MPA programme. Fernando, it's wonderful to be joined with you, and thanks for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you very much for coming here and for having this opportunity.
Yeah, just by way of setting the scene, so we're here at Getafe, Airbus's facility in Spain, one of them, and we're here on a media day, a lovely day in Getafe, I should add, as well. So it's very nice to be out of the office or out of working from home, I should say. But for listeners that are a little less familiar with this site, could you give us an idea of all of or some of the different military aircraft that are built here and produced on site here?
Airbus Defence and Space is having two main industrial centers. One is in Seville, where is the production of the A400M, the final assembly line of the A400M, and as well of the C295 in all of the versions. Here in Getafe, it's the biggest center of the company, and it's a place where we are having just industrial facilities for the production of Airbus commercial aircraft. We have to say that all of the horizontal stabilizers of Airbus commercial aircraft have been produced here in Getafe. And in the area of defense, we are having most of the engineering of military aircraft, of the programs related with military aircraft. And as well, we have, from the industrial part, we have the conversion center of the A330 MRTTs. As you know, the aircraft, we say green aircraft, or aircraft painted in Perpaco painting, came from Toulouse and are converted with the mission, with the roll equipment here in Getafe. We have as well the final assembly line, one of the 4 final assembly lines of the Eurofighter. Typically, the aircraft allocated to the Spanish Air Force were assembled here, and some major components are manufactured as well for the consortium of Eurofighter GmbH.
That's a really good overview there, Fernando. So let's move on, though, to your speciality, the C295 MPA. So can't start the conversation without talking about India, because after a long time, and you've been in negotiations with them, finally there is a deal now in place. Can you talk about how that came together and what happens now?
Oh, India, it's finally a very relevant customer for us. We have been working with the Indian Ministry of Defense since years in different programs, and one of them was the procurement of aircraft for replacing the fleet of Abros 748 that they operate in the Air Force for military transport and logistics. After years of negotiation, and finally we were notified of the award of the contract for the supply of 56 aircraft. And the most important part is this is the first Make in India policy program. Then at this moment, 40 of the 56 aircraft will be manufactured, not only assembled. We'll have just a full different levels of production in India. And finally, 40 of these aircraft will start flying from Indian premises. The first 16 aircraft will be manufactured in our final assembly line in Seville, like the other C295 in production.
And then the remaining aircraft, as I understand it, there will be a deal struck between Tata and Airbus with a future facility in India. That will bring the whole process, complete the whole process.
Yes, it's correct. This project is the first time that the Ministry of Defense of India has involved just private industries for participating in a defense project of this size. And Tata Defense will be just a company who will take the responsibility of conducting all of this industrial footprint and production in India. Very soon we'll have just information of in what area of the country will be placed just all of the industrial network.
Okay, and then moving on to other pieces of business, what are the significant orders and deliveries that are currently being worked on here in Spain with the C295?
During the last years, the most relevant campaign we are having is the production of 16 C295 in maritime surveillance configuration for the fixed-wing SAR service of the Royal Canadian Air Force. The contract was signed some years ago. It was very relevant contract for us because it's not only just the supply of 16 aircraft, as well as the collaboration with local industry in Canada for having all of the services in terms of maintenance, etc., and as well the supply of simulators for the Royal Canadian Air Force. At this moment, we have already just delivered one aircraft maintenance trainer, and 8 aircraft has been already delivered to the customer, and 3 of them are already in the Comox Air Force Base in Canada.
And interestingly, with the Canadian aircraft, they have FITS, which is kind of the new integrated system. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why it's so important from a customer perspective?
More than 25 years ago, one of our relevant customers, the Irish Air Corps, decided of investing on an integrated system. This means that was developing something different of the previous configuration that we call stand-alone sensor configuration. Then we start developing a system of what we consider now it's a network of consoles with computers, etc., that is integrating the information coming from the different sensors used for surveillance. This is in all of our Airbus products are equipped with a company proprietary system developed here in this facility of Getafe that is called Fully Integrated Tactical System FITS. That is the brain of the command and control system, providing the awareness to the tactical operators of the situation and the information gathered by the sensors, and as well networking with the other assets and providing just the control of the aircraft navigation equipment, and as well liaising with weapons or other type of elements that may be applying for configurations more in the defense area, not only in the surveillance.
And outside of the two main configurations, the MPA or the MSA versions, Airbus had also spoken previously about an AEW configuration, which has shown a lot of promise potentially with customers. Are you still hopeful for you'll sign a launch customer deal at some point in the future?
Yes, we are still working for the promotion of that version. As Airbus is having a family of surveillance, most of our customers or our market is based on the maritime domain, but we are delivering as well solutions for ground surveillance, electronic surveillance, and the fourth pillar is the airborne early warning. Then we invested on the development of the configuration, and we conducted different trials for guaranteeing just the feasibility of the project in terms of that the aircraft has controllability, stability when installed just a big rotating dome that is housing a AESA radar. Then all of that tasks were already conducted, and we started just with a direct promotion to our customers, and we hope that finally we'll get a launching customer that typically may use this solution not only for defense application, as well for security, for the detection and control of the unexpected movements of light aircraft for conducting illicit activities.
And moving the conversation to something outside of the C295 and on to MSAV, the joint French and German maritime airborne warfare system, that's been kind of talked a lot about in the media recently. Just given what's happened with Germany and buying the P8s as an interim solution, where do you see the program going? And in particular, where do you see Airbus's role, given how high profile the program will be?
Airbus is expecting the result of these Franco-German programs. Of course, that Airbus is supporting all of our national customers in the definition of new defense projects. And this is fully aligned with our strategy of the generation of a complete family of ISR, and in particular of maritime patrol aircraft in our portfolio. As mentioned before, we have just the C295, that is a tactical maritime patrol that has good conditions for conducting different type of missions. And we have decided just to analyze the customer needs and future requirements of a long-range patrol aircraft. Based on that, we have been talking with the customers and conducting just feasibility analysis for the eventual conversion of other aircraft of our portfolio, like the Airbus A320, in a future long-range patrol aircraft. We are expecting the results of the next steps of the MAUS program between France and Germany for supporting them on their decisions, and as well we are analyzing the possibility of finding other markets with other operators of current maritime patrol, and even the new needs that may arise in the next years.
And what might some of the big ideas for a next generation maritime aircraft be? Particularly if you're giving extra funding, but the customer wants additional or futuristic capabilities. What might some of the big ideas from Airbus be on that?
We are at this moment in a situation of change in the maritime patrol environment and even in the surveillance. Okay, we have seen just the arrival of the unmanned solutions that are today partially covering the needs of in terms of ISR. There are certain areas that the comprehensive equipment required for conducting the mission is out of the current UAS perimeter. What Airbus is seeing just in this area is the possibility of using both solutions, the unmanned and the manned, in a combined operation concept. We are working at this moment. Airbus is as well having capabilities for the development of unmanned solutions. Is one of the partner of Eurodrone program, among others, and we are working on the use of technologies for a better connectivity of the surveillance aircraft with the ground stations and even with collaborative units, and as well of the eventual control of the mission system of the surveillance aircraft on ground. These are one of the steps we have been analyzing, and we had some research and development programs for working in this line, and for trying just to unveil what should be the collaborative environment of the different assets for the surveillance, and in particular. We are working in the maritime environment for understanding what should be the best option for our customers in terms of collaborative operation.
And so would we expect to see some flight trials potentially in the near future on that? I mean, of course, it's dependent on a customer requirement, but that might be the direction of travel.
We have started just the trials with our prototypes. And we have conducted just some tests. We are analyzing just, and this will help just to continue in the technical developments of that applications. And of course, for us, the important part is just to define a concept of operation with the customers. That is more okay. We can establish a solution that sometimes is applicable or not to our customers. Then the next phase will be just start this collaborative phase with customers for understanding better how this teaming may result in a satisfactory solution for them.
Fernando, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time, and hopefully we can catch up with you again sometime soon. Thank you.
This episode of the Weekly Defence Podcast is brought to you in partnership with CAE. CAE is a high-technology company at the leading edge of digital innovation. The company provides training and mission support solutions across multi-domain operations, including air, land, maritime, space, and cyber. CAE's solutions are delivered to customers who operate in complex, high-stakes environments where mission readiness is critical. The company's Defence and Security Business Unit has undergone a significant transformation in 2021 following the acquisition of L3Harris's military training business, which included Link and DOS Aviation. CAE is now the world's leading pure-play, platform-agnostic training and simulation company, serving the global defence market.
So welcome to this week's Industry Voice segment. This week we're sponsored by CAE. So I'm Tony Skinner, Creative Director at Shephard Media, and I'm sitting down with Daniel Galston, who's the Group President of CAE's Defence and Security Group. So Dan, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Tony. Great to be here.
So Dan, you were appointed into your role in August 2020, and I guess to kick things off, you've had quite the first year. Notably, the company made big news when you acquired L3Harris's military training business for some $1 billion US. So I guess to get us started, I mean, could we talk about that acquisition, why it was important for CAE, and how it's going to help you to advance your strategy?
Yeah, I'd love to, Tony. It was big news. In the 60 plus years of CAE's existence, it was the largest acquisition in the company's history. So very excited that it was in the defense and security business realm, and particularly excited that the property was L3Harris Military Training, a property that honestly CAE had been looking at for some time. It was a rather unique opportunity to get in there and compete for the purchase, and was very pleased on March 1st when we were able to announce that the acquisition was going to happen. And then even more pleased when within about 3 months, almost on the nose, we were able to complete the transition and get through all the regulatory approvals first pass. So certainly good news on that front. It was particularly exciting for a number of reasons. Mainly, it accelerates my strategy for the defense and security business and broadens the business, particularly in the United States. They're highly complementary to our business now that we are one and the same. That is really bearing fruit. And what's so exciting is together we create the largest platform agnostic training and simulation pure play in the world that's capable of providing solutions and integrating across all 5 battle space domains. And that's a unique position to be in, that our customers, both in the United States and internationally, really seek now that the world is moving to a near peer scenario for training. And no longer is it a focus really on just the ground tier, but all 5 battle space tiers. So cyber, land, air, sea, and space. L3Harris is highly complementary to the legacy CAE abilities within DNS. I've spoken about this a few times, but in the air tier, for instance, they do jets, a lot of fighters and bombers, and legacy CAE did a lot of propeller planes, transports, tankers. In the sea domain, legacy CAE trained surface ships like the Littoral Combat Ship, and L3Harris trained subsurface submarines. So a lot of real nice complementarity there, even though we both have a similar passion and focus on training and simulation. There was a surprisingly limited amount of actual overlap in our customer sets. So I like to think of it that they really helped us become a very strong, if not dominant, position in the air tier, enhanced us in land and sea, and then gave more entree in the 2 newer domains, space and cyber. And that's exciting, again, as we focus for our customers on their specific need, which is multi-domain operations. I'm sure we'll chat a little bit more about that. But now we are this platform agnostic pure play that only is focused and passionate about doing just that, training and simulation across all 5 battle space domains.
And I guess you've really teed up my next question. The fact that you're talking about 5 battle space domains in a multi-domain environment, looking at a near peer landscape. The question, I guess, is in that context, how is the military training market changing to reflect that? And I guess what is CAE doing to address any emerging or new requirements as a result?
Yeah, well, certainly starting particularly in the United States with the 2018 National Defense Strategy, there was a massive shift in the focus for the U.S. and its allies away from a ground-based, primarily asymmetric threat where we were fighting every day. That would be the terrorist threat, non-state actor threat, to a near-peer, multi-domain, not just ground, but air, land, sea, cyber, space, a training posture. Because fundamentally, if you think about defense departments, ministries of defense, they really do one of 2 things. They either fight wars or they train to fight wars to keep their country safe. So we're shifting from fighting this ground-based, predominantly terrorist threat to training for a near-peer threat across all 5 domains. That's a massive shift, really about 2 decades in the making. I was in the Army myself a couple of decades ago in uniform. The last time we made this pivot away from a near-peer threat in Russia and training against the air quote Krasnovians to post-September 11th, really focused on the asymmetric threat. So it involves the entirety of the battle space environment, and particularly being in a training posture, one that is going to learn and develop through that training versus the real world experience that we've had the last 20 years about actually fighting the battles. But integrated and realistic training, especially in a multi-domain environment, is a challenge, particularly doing so in a timely and cost-effective manner, doing it with the regularity that you need to maintain mission readiness is a real challenge. It takes a lot of time to obviously get assets across all 5 domains, ships and planes and satellites and tanks all together to train. And it certainly is costly, particularly in a post-COVID-19 world where there's going to be bill payers that are probably going to see some trims in the next few years, and seeing that defense budgets are some of the largest of a discretionary budget with any country, that will have an impact. So this shift means more training, probably more specifically training in a synthetic environment in order to allow that integrated and realistic training at the cost and at the regularity that we need. When we move from the platform-centric view of training to one that's more integrated holistically, really the only way that will be possible is in a virtual world. So with our acquisition of L3Harris's military training business, it's further strengthened CAE's ability to provide this integrated multi-domain training capability, a path that we really started on back in 2018. I'll give credit to Mark Prant, my CEO, and seeing that back then, understanding the implications of the National Defense Strategy and starting a massive investment in digital immersion technology, actually to the tune of about $1 billion over a 5-year period, focused on this synthetic environment, an AI-enhanced synthetic environment, cyber-hardened synthetic environment that our customers need to train in. I think you'll see evidence of this capability, hopefully coming up at ITSEC here very soon, particularly in our, what we're calling the Common All-Domain Environment for Tested Training, which includes air, land, and C4ISR integrated in a networked, cyber-secure, quite key training environment.
Yeah, that does highlight the fact that we are speaking before ITSEC. This podcast will be going live just the Friday before. So for listeners who sort of find their way to the CAE booth during ITSEC, I mean, are there going to be any new products or solutions that you're displaying that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. We are launching our new CAE Prodigy image generator, which is based on the Unreal gaming engine. And we'll be demonstrating that as part of our CAE's E-Series MR Prodigy visual system. And that combines the image generator, the dome display, and projectors into a fully integrated solution for fighter and fast jet training. And I think this is an example of CAE's move to be this all-domain solution integrator for training and simulation. So this Unreal Engine is really enhancing our capability and making it much faster and cheaper and better in the end for our customer. We're also announcing that our E-Series display system will be a key part of the Typhoon Future Synthetic Training Program led by BAE Systems for the Royal Air Force. So that's pretty exciting. We'll roll this out at the show, but hopefully congruently be releasing an announcement that we'll be installing it on our first platform for our first customer. So deployed out to the front lines of training and simulation is pretty exciting.
Excellent. Dan, we're about out of time. I guess as a call to action, I should say to listeners, if you'd like to learn more about CAE's capability, products and solutions, encourage you to go along and see the company during ITSEC. Yeah, during that show, a visit to CAE is sort of a must-have on the agenda. For now, Dan, I'd just like to say thanks for joining us on the podcast.
I appreciate it, Tony. Good to spend time with you. And I have to admit, You Kiwis have a much cooler accent than I've got, so I feel a little substandard in this podcast. I gotta get a better radio voice, but I try my best.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, Dan.
Thank you. Have a good one.
This episode of the Weekly Defense Podcast was brought to you in partnership with our sponsors, Raytheon Missiles and Defense and CAE. As always, a big thanks for everyone who took part in the show today. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed the show, please make sure you like, subscribe, leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Until next week, thanks for listening.